Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on which part of the world you are. I'm here in Sydney, Australia, and it's a really beautiful day today. So, welcome to the channel, and I hope you guys are doing great. Now, in this channel, I like to talk about religion, and today we'll be talking about atheism and Abrahamic philosophies. Now, a couple of days ago, I made a video on atheism where I asked a simple question that the reason and evidence and proof and reality and all those things, can those things exist beyond five senses? That was my question. And I got a couple of response, and those response is the main reason for making this video. Now, one of the responses that I received is this: for atheists, it isn't about feelings or opinions, it's about evidence gathered using methods outside of personal experience or opinions. Now, personal experience is the key word here. So you are talking about going beyond personal experience, going outside of personal experience. And I don't think that by science you can do that. This is the key observation. Like, what is science? Science is the discovery of physical law. For instance, theory of relativity. It does not exist in the dawn of civilization. Somebody discovered it much, much, much later. So these are the discoveries of physical law. It does not have to be personal experience, does not have to be my personal experience, but it can be someone else's personal experience. But it does not go beyond personal experience in general. If it is not by my personal experience, it's someone else's personal experience. But the key limitations of science is that it is within five senses, within the domain of five senses, within personal experience. Like, this is the biggest limitation of science, that it cannot go beyond personal experience. At least that is my understanding. And that is why we have been talking about a possibility. Right? We are talking about a possibility. Can there be a possibility of God? Can there be such a possibility? I'm not saying that it definitely is the case. That isn't the point at all. But we are trying to open up the possibility. We are trying to open up the door. Like, when an atheist is asserting the position, like that is the second comment that we'll be discussing, that atheist is asserting the position that, oh, look, there is no evidence for God right now, and there is no possibility of God. You are shutting down the possibility, and that is the biggest, dilemma that I am facing as a theist, because I was influenced by, ironically, by an atheist, Dr. Daniel Kahneman. Now, he made a very famous statement that you are blind to the obvious and you are blind to your blindness, which essentially, like, explains like different types of biases that we have, different types of illusions that we have: memory illusion, cognitive illusion, visual illusion, substitution, mental shotgun, and all those things that we have. Like, these are some of the inherent deficiencies of our mind, and because of those things we cannot see the reality. You are blind to the obvious, and of course you are blind to your own blindness. Like, this is the key philosophy that we are coming from. One of the key ideas that I come across in my life is this illusion. We are all living a dream. We are all deluded. This was one of the key ideas that I come across in my life. And this is the biggest problem with science, that it cannot go beyond this drama. Five senses. It cannot go beyond this drama. It cannot go beyond the domain of five senses. So when you were talking about going outside of five senses, outside of personal experience, you are not following the path of science. That is my understanding, and that is why I think that your comment does not actually make any sense, because you are essentially criticizing science now, because science is discovery of physical law, which is bound within five senses, bound within this domain of perception that constitute our five senses, like the visuals, taste, and all those things. It cannot go beyond five senses. And that is the biggest problem, that is the biggest limitation of science. So if you have to go beyond five senses, you cannot do it with science. That is the problem. That is the problem of your statement. Now, let's go to the second comment. The second comment is that we just have to know there is no good reason to think there is one, right? When, like I made my comment that an atheist, as an atheist, you are asserting the position that there is no possibility of God. There is no such possibility because you don't have the because you don't have the evidence now. So you're making the assumption, you're making the assertion that okay, there is no possibility of God at all. The comment was, we just have to know there is no good reason to think there is one. There is no good reason to think that there is a possibility of God. So you brought up a couple of things. Reason. Now again, what is reason? Reason is one of the characteristic of our consciousness. Like we discussed a couple of terminologies in my other video. We discussed about consciousness, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness. So let's discuss those terms again. Consciousness. What is consciousness? Again, coming from Dr. Daniel Kahneman, you are blind to the obvious and you are blind to your blindness. This is what consciousness is. You are blind to the obvious because your mind is busy with something. There was this gorilla in the experiment who came to the scene and thumbs up his chest, and half of the participants didn't notice it. Why? Because their mind is busy. Because the mind is constantly like doing other things, substitution, different types of biases that he have, different types of illusions that it has, substitution, mental shotgun, and all those things. Because of those things present, like emotions, because of those things, your mind is constantly busy, and that's why it cannot see the reality. That is one of the key takeaways from Dr. Daniel Kahneman, and that is what consciousness is. You are blind to the obvious. You don't know what is going on, and you don't know that you don't know. You don't know that there is a possibility of gorilla in the scene. This is what consciousness is. So reasoning is one of these finite characteristics of man that belong to conscious mind. You cannot do reasoning with your unconscious mind, can you? You can't do that. So reasoning is again part of your conscious drama. You are within the domain of five senses, and within that five senses you reason. So you are still limited, you are still not going beyond five senses, you are still within five senses. That is my my point, my observation on your comment. And there is another part of your comment, good reason. Now you want to talk about a good reason. Let's say that like reasoning, we are talking about reasoning. Let's say that reasoning is not the biggest issue. Let's talk about good reasoning. Now I give you a reason, whether it's good or bad. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna make a comment on whether it's a good reason, but let me give you a reason. So we are discussing a key idea in this channel. If you are following along, we are discussing one of the key ideas of human experience, illusion. This is one of the key ideas, that we are all wrong. Our sensual perceptions are wrong. What is the source of conflict on this earth? Self-righteousness. You think that you are right, I think I am right, but we are both wrong. But we are both wrong, but we don't accept it because we are self-righteous, because we think that we are right. But if we could think that, okay, I am wrong, or I could be wrong, or what is the source of all the conflict in this world? Self-righteousness. This is the source of all the conflict in the world. Nobody thinks that he is wrong. Nobody thinks, I don't think that I'm wrong. You don't think that you are wrong. If you could think that you are wrong, if you could think that, oh, like I could be wrong, or at least there's a possibility, then the amount of conflict, at least there's a possibility. Again, there's a possibility. We are talking about, I'm not trying to, like put a stamp. I'm not trying to say that, it is final. Let's call it the message of God or anything. We are not talking about finality. We are talking about possibility. There is a possibility that if we think that we are wrong, there is the possibility that this world could be a better place. It could reduce conflict and it could be a better place. This is my understanding. So if you come to the notion that you could be wrong, your sensual perceptions could be wrong, right? That opens up the debate that okay, then what is the absolute? What is the truth? Because I am wrong, because you are wrong. Okay, so let's not focus on this, this contention, this issue. Let's focus on something else. Let's move on. Let's focus on something else. This could potentially open up the debate, open up the possibility of a new age of exploration. We could reduce conflict within ourselves, and we could open up the possibility for a new age, for a new civilization. That is good reason. Whether it's a good or bad, again, I'm not going to comment on that, but that is my reasoning, to understand that you are wrong. This is my reasoning. That if you stuck with this, if you stuck with science, scientific discoveries, you are potentially making this assertion that you are right. What science is doing, the discoveries they are doing, is the only way to gain truth. But that isn't the case at all. You have to go beyond five senses, at least from different types of books that I have read. Like, let me give you one more example. What do we know? We know that our brain, like our, the head is where the brain is. Now, if you read Jonathan Haidt's book, Happiness Hypothesis, now he gave these ideas that our human body is divided. There is no one individual in me. It's a group of people within me. Again, this guy is not an idiot. This guy is not, some guy rising to the occasion out of the blue. He did research for his lifetime in a lab. All of these people that I'm referring to, like, these are not people, rising to the occasion out of the blue. What he said, that brain just does not exist up in the head. There is another brain, gut brain. There is another brain. Your penis has a brain, or your vagina if you are women. Your reproductive system has a brain. Like in the other video, we have been discussing about consciousness and subconsciousness and of course superconsciousness. Now, so we discussed consciousness. You're blind to the obvious, you're blind to your blindness. What is subconsciousness? Like, you don't know what you don't know. Consciousness is what you don't know, what you don't know. What is subconsciousness? You don't know what you do know. You don't know what you do know. It's a bit tricky. Now, what is an analogy? Let's say that I'm speaking in English. This is not my mother language. I could have, I have been recording this video for 13 minutes. Like, I can see it on my phone. The words that I have chosen, these words, I can say that I have chosen these words, but this is not the case. Something else, this choosing is done at the back end. Something else chose this word for me. I have a theme that I'm going to talk about. I have an abstract idea that I'm going to talk about, and rest of the things are being done for me. This is what subconsciousness is. You don't know what you do know. You don't know what you don't know. What is the conscious mind? And your subconscious mind is you don't know what you do know. There are a lot of things that you are doing and you have no idea about it, that you are actually doing it. So what is the point of saying all these things? Is to make you understand, is to bring you to this understanding that you are out of control. You are living a dream. You are deluded. This is one of the key ideas that I have come across in my life. Whether it's a good idea or a bad idea is not the point, but this is a key idea of my understanding of life, right? So when you are saying that there is no good reason, that there is one, yes, there is a reason. there is a reason to shift your thinking, to shift that there could be a reality that goes beyond five senses. First of all, reasoning is a drama, is a psychodrama of the conscious mind. Again, you are within the, you haven't addressed this question. Can reason and evidence go beyond five senses? You haven't addressed that question. In response, you made your argument based on those five senses, and also the fact that you bring up the notion of reasoning, like a good reasoning, like a good reason, whether there is a good reason. Now, the good reason for me is that if you shift your thinking, it opens up the possibility of reducing conflict in the world. That is my understanding. And now to follow it up, like these are the two comments, and there is another comment that came along, like when I made this, like when I used the terminology, which obviously I come across from Swami Vivekananda's super consciousness. Like this was the philosophy that I was introduced to, which is called Advaita philosophy, philosophy of oneness, introduced to me by Swami Vivekananda's. Now, that philosophy suggests that not only we are deluded, but the reason we see duality in this world, that I am different than you, is because I am veiled by Maya. I haven't reached that level of super consciousness. When you reach that level of super consciousness, you realize this. You realize that you are eternity and divinity. You are eternity and divinity. That you existed for eternity, and you are the divine self. You are that pure. You are that holy. You. When, like, I made my comment in my other video that, okay, this is an idea that is unique to Hinduism. It does not occur in any other religion. One of the comment was this, that you haven't, you obviously have not looked deeply enough into other religion who have the same concept. That was the comment that I got. You obviously have not looked deeply enough into other religion who have the same concept, which is not true. No religion has this concept. Let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about Christianity. Who is God in Christianity? Jesus. Like I brought up the issue, the Advaita philosophy. I made an English translation, that's philosophy of oneness. So someone was coming along that we have the same philosophy. Doctrine of Trinity, oneness. Doctrine of Trinity got nothing to do with Advaita philosophy. Who is God in Christianity? Jesus is the God. God the Father, before Jesus was born, he was up in the heaven, God the Father. And then when he was born, God the Son. Jesus is born, God the Son. And then when Jesus died, he's as in spirit, he's risen to the heaven. He is not here. He is risen to the heaven. That is your doctrine, doctrine of Trinity. God the Father before Christ was born, God the Son when Christ is born, and God the Spirit when he is crucified, when he died. And then he is risen to the heaven. He is not here. That is the key point. There is a distinction between creation, like God and its creation. There is a distinction. It's not one, it's two. But the Advaita philosophy is suggesting that thou art that, you are the God. When we are talking about doctrine of Trinity, we are talking about God. It got nothing to do with me. But the Advaita philosophy is saying that thou art that, you are the God. Vivekananda gives an analogy. Think about a sun. In the morning, when the dews come along, if you go to a field, there are the morning dews. Every morning dew, every globules have reflection of that sun. But there is but only one sun. There is only one sun. Everything else, the morning dews, they are the reflection of that same sun. Right? These are the reflections. You are a reflection. Vivekananda said this: good and bad is not of the kind but of the degree. Less manifested and more manifested is not of the kind. These are not two different things. Is the distinction between good and evil is of degree, not of kind. This is Advaita philosophy. It got absolutely no parallel whatsoever in any other religion. It got nothing to do with doctrine of Trinity. Doctrine of Trinity is about God. God the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. It got nothing to do with me. There are other distinctions: Christ, Antichrist. Two different things: believers, unbelievers. Two different things: heaven and hell. That you believe in Jesus. Again, what is the biggest problem with Abrahamic philosophies? The biggest problem with Abrahamic philosophies is this: the central tenet is belief, which is an illusion. Its central tenet is based on belief. You believe, then you are salvaged. You believe, you are salvaged, and if you don't believe, guess what happens? You are doomed to hell. This is the biggest problem. This is the biggest problem of Abrahamic philosophies. Now you come to Islam. They call this shahada, oneness of God. What is oneness of God? There is no God but Allah. Now I made a video on Islam. Like if you want to discuss about Christianity, I got a separate video for Christians. If you think that you can answer those questions, I got 4 questions. If you think that you can answer those questions, go ahead, give it a try. Spoil me. Indulge me. Spoil me. And if you are a Muslim, again, I got a video, half an hour video for both of you. If you're a Christian, I got half an hour for you. If you're a Muslim, I got half an hour for you. Go give it a try. If you think that what I am saying, this Advaita philosophy, has any parallel whatsoever in any other religion, you bring that up. You bring up the evidence, again, I will succumb to your argument. This philosophy has no parallel whatsoever. Its assertion is this: there is no distinction between good and evil. There is no distinction. Is of the degree, not of the kind. That is what Swami Vivekananda argues. So let's come to Islam. Shahada. It says that there is no God but Allah. No God. It rejects everything else. It begins with rejection. Where is the oneness? Where is the oneness in rejection? There is no oneness in rejection. You are rejecting. You are saying that there is no God but Allah. It's a grave sin. Chapter 4, verse 48, I believe. Chapter 4, verse 116. A holy Quran. There is no acceptance in Islam. There is no oneness in Islam. It's about rejection and hatred. It's about destruction. And I got a separate video for you. If you think that you can answer those questions, go ahead and give it a try. So your comment does not make any sense when you said that I haven't looked deeply into the faith. Now, if you really want to talk about Christianity, what good came out of these desert dogmas? Let's talk about that. History. Let's say that I don't know anything about theology. Let's talk about history for a moment. What good came out of your Christianity? What ideas have came out of these desert dogmas? Can I be honest? Can I tell you the truth? The most depraved, the most wicked, the most barbaric ideas that I happen to come across, I found them in these Abrahamic philosophies. All the prophets, all the people that you call your prophet, these Moses, these Joshuas, these David, Solomon, Prophet Muhammad, all of these people, these are the most degenerate of human beings that ever existed in human history. Most degenerate, most wicked, most barbaric savages that ever existed in human history. Now, Winston Churchill. I didn't actually want to talk about Winston Churchill, but I think he needs to be, all of these people need to be called out. He said this: Hindus are a beastly people who follow a beastly religion. So I am one of those beastly people who follow a beastly religion of Hinduism. So now I give you 5 ideas from this beastly religion of Hinduism. Your job, if you are a hardcore believer of Christianity or any other Abrahamic faiths, Your job is to give me one. That this idea can change the direction of humanity. You give me one idea. I give you five. Key ideas. Equanimity. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Krishna says that who is a wise man? A wise man is he or she who can take the good and the bad as equal. Equanimity. Pantheism or polytheism. What is pantheism or polytheism? Like Krishna in chapter 11, verse 2 to 7, Krishna says that, behold, Arjuna, my hundreds and thousands of wonderful forms in various shapes, sizes, and colors. In chapter 4, verse 35, Krishna says that when you gain that knowledge, you realize that everything is me. Everything, this entire universe is but me. So, what is pantheism? Every path is a God's path. Vivekananda said that as the different streams have their sources in different places, all mingle their water into the sea. The same way, the different paths that men take through different tendencies, various though they appear crooked or straight, all lead to thee. These are all God's path. What is pantheism? Acceptance. Where in any other religion and any other philosophy does these things occur? Which part? What are you talking about? Right? What are you talking about? Pantheism. Winston Churchill said that these are the beastly people with a beastly religion. So I'm giving you five ideas. Equanimity, and there is this one. Acceptance, pantheism or polytheism. Acceptance, universal acceptance. Every path is a God's path. Reincarnation, evolution. You and I are born many, many times. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse 5, you and I are born many, many times. I can remember them all, but you cannot. A Pashu, an animal, is on its journey to Lord Shiva, journey of a Pashu to Pashupati. An animal is on its journey to Lord Shiva. Reincarnation, evolution. Unselfishness, in chapter 5, verse 10, Krishna says that you have to give up the desires. As the lotus, who is born at the bottom of the lake, comes out of the water and reaches to the sun, the same way men have to perform their duties as an offering to the deity. You have to give up the desires, you have to give up the fruits, and that is when you will be exonerated from its sin. Karma yoga. We are getting there. We'll be discussing the super consciousness in a minute. Unselfishness. And of course, illusion, that you are veiled by Maya. Krishna again, chapter 11, verse 2 to 7, that you cannot see. You cannot see the reality. That's when Krishna gives Arjuna divine vision. This one idea which can change the direction of humanity, that you cannot see, that you are wrong, you are faulty. Your sensual perceptions are faulty, you cannot see. Illusion. And of course, mental strength. Like, what is the message? Like, what is the message of Bhagavad Gita? It was delivered on a battlefield. Might versus right. Kauravas and Pandavas. Kauravas are 100 brothers, Pandavas are 5 brothers. Might versus right. One has the might, another has the right. What was the message? Even if you are weak, even if you are small in numbers, you have to take up the arms and fight the evil. Mental strength. These great ideas, equanimity, mental strength, acceptance, like pantheism, reincarnation, illusion, and unselfishness, actually 6 ideas, I gave you as a beastly religion, as a follower of a beastly religion, by the words of Sir Winston Churchill. I gave you 6 ideas. If you're a follower of an Abrahamic religion, I got, like, if you're a Christian, I got a video for you. If you're a Muslim, I got a video for you. And on top, now I'm asking you to give me one idea which can change the direction of humanity. I gave you 6. You give me 1. So now, let's talk about super consciousness. So we covered consciousness and subconsciousness. Like, these are the dramas that we always have to make you come to the realization that you are dreaming all the time. What is super consciousness? That when you reach that level, again, Advaita philosophy, philosophy of oneness, When you reach that level, you realize that there is no duality. You are but one. Divinity and eternity. You existed for eternity and you are the divinity. Thou art that. Now, these all sounds good. How do you get to that super consciousness? Again, I'm coming from the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. 4 ideas. There are 4 different ways you can get there. Karma yoga. Work for work's sake. You work, giving up the fruit. You work for work's sake. That is one way to attain this state, super consciousness. Second way, the emotional man or emotional being or emotional women. Devotion, love for the sake of love. Love for the sake of love. The ceremonies, the flowers, the candles, the incense. They love God for the sake of love, not for gaining anything. This is the second way. The third way, power of concentration, Raja Yoga. So we covered Karma Yoga, action, work for the sake of work, Bhakti Yoga, devotion, the ceremonies, and now Raja Yoga, power of concentration. Who is a Raj Yogi who can bring his entire existence into one point, like a glass, like a magnifying glass that can like concentrate all of its light into one point. The same way a Raj Yogi can concentrate his mind into one object. Again, this is another way of attaining that super consciousness. And finally, Jnana Yoga, knowledge. That this is called the philosopher. This person is called a philosopher who goes beyond all limitations, sensual, of course sensual, like all kinds of limitations that you can imagine. He goes beyond all of those things to attain this state, Jnana Yoga, knowledge. All limitations, whether it's a sensual perception or anything. These are the 4 different ways: Karma Yoga, action; Bhakti Yoga, devotion; Raja Yoga, concentration; and Jnana Yoga, knowledge. These are the 4 different ways, probably the divine vision. These are the 4 different ways that you can attain that state of super consciousness. So when, again, I will ask this question as a finishing line, I will ask this question: have you addressed my previous question when I am asking you as an atheist, are you limiting yourself? First of all, you are deluded. There is no question whatsoever whether you are deluded. You are deluded. All records suggest that you are. So now the question is, can you reach absolute with a delusion? Because you are deluded, your sensual perception is nothing but a made up drama. It's nothing but some nonsense. So can you go beyond that nonsense? Can you reach that absolute? Right? Is there a possibility to go beyond 5 senses? I will ask this question again. And if you are a follower of an Abrahamic faith, I hope you got your answer, that this idea of Advaita philosophy has no parallel whatsoever in your religion. Again, I gave you 6 ideas. You give me 1. Thank you for watching, and I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.